For decades, he operated in plain sight. A billionaire financier with connections to presidents, princes, and the world's most powerful people. His private island was called Pedophile Island by locals, yet he walked free. His crimes were known, yet justice was denied. And when he finally faced the truth in a Manhattan jail cell in 2019, he died under circumstances so suspicious that even the official story can't hide the questions. Today, in November 2025, the United States Congress has done something unprecedented.
It's dropping
They
fast.
voted
Move it.
427 to 1 to force the release of every document, every file, every piece of evidence in the Jeffrey Epstein case. This isn't just about one man. This is about a network, a system, and powerful people who thought they were untouchable. This is the story they don't want told, the connections they want buried, the truth that could shake the foundations of power. Because what you're about to hear isn't just another true crime story. It's a glimpse into how the elite protect their own, and what happens when those protections finally crack. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the Epstein Files are the most explosive documents in American legal history, and why it took 20 years for justice to even be
This
attempted.
evidence never sees the
Part
light
1.
of day.
The Rise of a Predator.
Consider
Let's
it
start
handled.
at the beginning.
It's a pleasure doing
Jeffrey
business
Epstein
with
was born in Brooklyn in 1953. By the 1970s, he was a math teacher at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan. No degree, no credentials, just connections. It was here that he began building his network among New York's elite families. But teaching wasn't lucrative enough. In 1976, he left Dalton and entered the world of high finance at Bear
The
Stearns.
implications of the recent
Within
data
4 years,
are
he had his
profound.
own firm, J.
Indeed,
Epstein &
it
Co.,
changes the
claiming
entire
to
scope
manage
of the
money
research
exclusively
project.
for billionaires. The minimum investment, $1 billion, or so he said. Here's what nobody talks about. To this day, nobody knows exactly how Epstein made his fortune. There's no paper trail, no major clients publicly acknowledged except one, Les Wexner, the billionaire founder of Victoria's Secret. Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney over his finances. He trusted him with everything. That trust would later seem tragically misplaced. By the 1990s, Epstein had everything money could buy. A mansion in Manhattan, a ranch in New Mexico, an
On a scale of
island
1
in
to
the
10, how
Caribbean,
severe is the
and
intent
his
to act on
infamous
these
private
thoughts?
jet,
I don't know, maybe an
later
8.
dubbed the Lolita Express by the media.
All right.
Flight
Based-
logs from this plane become crucial evidence, showing trips with presidents, actors, and academics. But little St. James Island,
Epstein didn't
that
kill
70-acre
himself.
private paradise in the U.S. Virgin Islands, that's where the real story begins. Locals
Wait for the
called
signal.
it Pedophile Island long before the
We're
rest
set.
of the world
Go,
knew
go,
why.
go.
Because what happened there wasn't just rumors. It was a systematic operation of abuse, trafficking, and exploitation that would eventually involve dozens of victims and span decades. Part 2. The first betrayal of justice. The first cracks in Epstein's armor appeared in 2005. A mother in Palm Beach, Florida, went to the police with a disturbing story. Her 14-year-old daughter.
Ms.
had
Sharma,
been
can you
paid
explain why the
$300
agency failed to produce
give
the
a
documents
massage
requested?
to a
Mr.
wealthy
Chairman, we
man.
prioritize the most
That man
urgent
was
requests
Jeffrey
and have
Epstein.
provided the relevant
Palm
documents.
Beach police began investigating. What they found was horrifying. Not just one victim, but dozens. A system where teenage girls, some as young as 14, were recruited from schools, malls, and vulnerable situations. They were told
On
they
this
could
vote,
make
the
money
yeas
giving
are
massages
220,
to a
the nays
wealthy
are
man.
215.
The reality
The
was
Epstein
far
Files
darker.
Transparency
The
Act
victims
is
described
passed.
a pattern.
The
They
yeas
would
are
be brought to Epstein's
427,
Palm
the
Beach
nays
ranch,
are 1.
taken to a
The
massage
bill is
room,
passed.
and then abused. Many were paid hundreds of dollars.
Without objection,
Some
the
were
bill is
told to
advanced.
recruit their
So
friends,
ordered.
earning
Hallelujah.
$200 for each new girl they brought. It was a pyramid scheme of exploitation, targeting the most vulnerable. By 2007, federal prosecutors had drafted a 53-page indictment. Epstein faced life in prison. The FBI had identified at least 36 victims. The evidence was overwhelming. This should have been the end of Jeffrey Epstein. But then something unprecedented happened. Alex Acosta, the U.S. Attorney for Southern Florida, made a deal. And not just any deal, what legal experts would later call the deal of a lifetime for a sex offender. Instead of federal charges, Epstein would plead guilty to just 2 state prostitution charges. The sentence, 18 months in county jail. But even that was a joke. Epstein was granted work release for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He spent most of his sentence in his office, not his cell. He served just 13 months, but here's the truly outrageous part. The non-prosecution agreement included immunity for any potential co-conspirators. That meant anyone who helped Epstein, anyone who recruited victims, anyone who participated, would never face federal charges. The deal was kept secret from the victims in direct violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Why did Acosta do it? In 2025, he finally testified to Congress. He claimed Epstein belonged to intelligence and that he was told to back off. Whether that's true or an excuse, we may never know. But the effect was clear. Jeffrey Epstein walked free, and he would continue his crimes for another decade. Part 3, hidden in plain sight. After his 2008 conviction, Epstein was required to register as a sex offender.
We are looking into the Epstein situation very strongly, and we will find the truth. Believe me.
He continued to cultivate relationships with scientists, academics, politicians, and celebrities. He donated millions to Harvard and MIT. He hosted conferences bringing together Nobel laureates and cutting-edge researchers. He positioned himself as a patron of science and intellectual pursuits, all while continuing to abuse young women. The flight logs from the Lolita Express tell a story that many powerful people would prefer remained hidden. Former President Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane at least 26 times, including trips to Africa, Asia, and Europe. Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, was photographed with his arm around Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most vocal victims, at Ghislaine Maxwell.
The time for silence is over. We are here not just as survivors, but as architects of change.
And according to
we
victims,
demand to be
his
heard.
chief recruiter, the daughter of disgraced media mogul Maxwell, she had her own connections to high society. Victims described her as the one who made them feel safe, who normalized the abuse, who groomed them into Epstein's trap. For years, investigative journalists tried to tell this story. Most notably, Julie Kay. Brown of the Miami Herald spent months tracking down victims. In 2018, she published Perversion of Justice, a series that exposed the sweetheart
We need to
deal,
verify these figures
the
before it goes to the
rights,
Attorney
and the
General's
continued
desk.
suffering
They checked
of
out yesterday.
Epstein's victims.
It's ready for processing.
The series caused a firestorm.
This spike
Public
correlates
outrage
exactly
forced
with the
federal
timing of the
prosecutors
announcement.
to take
Yes,
another
the public
look.
reaction is
In July
immediate.
2019,
We need to highlight this.
More than a decade after his
We
first
need to ensure
arrest,
the discovery is
Jeffrey
complete
Epstein
before the
was
deposition.
arrested again.
Agreed.
This time
I'll
at
finalize the
Teterboro
brief for the
Airport
summary
in New
judgment
Jersey,
today.
returning from Paris.
This evidence
on his
is crucial
private
for the
jet.
hearing.
I agree,
Part
but
4,
look at this
death in a
discrepancy in the
Manhattan cell.
financial records.
The
We
new
can't proceed
charges
until
were
we verify
serious.
these numbers.
Sex
The public is
trafficking of
watching.
minors.
The connection
If
in Europe
convicted,
is active.
Epstein faced
Cross-reference
up to
with the
45
South American
years in
data stream
federal
now.
prison. At 66
We have a match
years
in the
old,
eastern sector.
It was effectively
It's all
a
in
life
here.
sentence.
They
He was
finally
denied
acknowledge what
bail
happened.
and held at the Metropolitan Correctional
finally
Center
have
in
closure.
Manhattan, one of the most secure
Your Honor,
federal
I
facilities
never
in the
thought I would be
country.
standing here
On
today.
July 23,
The
2019, just days
pain
after
is
his
still
arrest,
very real.
Epstein was found injured in his cell. He claimed his cellmate, a former cop accused of murder, had attacked him. Others suspected a suicide attempt.
I finally feel like I'm
He was
starting to
placed on
heal,
suicide
surrounded
watch.
by all of you.
6 days
It's
later,
a long road,
he was removed
but I'm ready.
from suicide
That's a beautiful way to
watch.
put it.
Psychologists determined he was not a suicide risk. He was returned to a regular cell, supposedly with a cellmate for monitoring. But on August 10th, 2019, something went catastrophically wrong. That morning, guards found Jeffrey Epstein unconscious in his cell. He was alone. His cellmate had been transferred, and no replacement had been assigned. 2 guards who were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes had fallen asleep and later falsified logs to cover
My
up
dear,
their
the
negligence.
acquisition went smoother than
Security
expected.
cameras
A remarkable
that should
year
have
for the
captured his
portfolio.
cell had
Charles, you
malfunctioned.
always make it sound so
The medical
effortless.
examiner
Topping that success
ruled it
then.
suicide
To the
by
merger,
hanging.
gentlemen.
But the circumstances were so suspicious.
We've secured the permits. The environmental concerns are negligible.
Even the official Justice Department Inspector General's report found fundamental failures and significant misconduct by the Bureau of Prisons. The phrase "Epstein didn't kill himself" became a meme, a cultural touchstone representing public distrust in official narratives. Whether you believe he was murdered, allowed to kill himself, or took his own life out of fear, one thing is certain. Jeffrey Epstein's death meant he would never face trial. He would never name names. He would never be forced to reveal the full extent of his network.
Me neither.
But
Did
the
you
story
finish the
didn't
homework?
end there,
Almost
because
there.
Ghislaine
Race you to the
Maxwell
door.
is still alive. Part 5. Maxwell's Reckoning. After Epstein's death, Ghislaine Maxwell went into hiding. For nearly a year, she vanished. FBI agents eventually found her in July 2020, living in a luxury home in New Hampshire, purchased through a shell company. Her trial in late 2021 was everything Epstein's would have been. For 3 weeks, victims testified in devastating detail. They described how Maxwell recruited them, groomed them, normalized the abuse, and sometimes participated herself. She was convicted on 5 counts, including sex trafficking of minors. In June 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Unlike Epstein, she would serve every day. The judge called her crimes heinous and predatory. Victims finally felt heard, but many said the real justice would be exposing everyone else involved, because Maxwell's trial revealed something crucial. This wasn't just about Epstein and Maxwell. Victims testified about being trafficked to powerful men. Virginia Giuffre publicly accused Prince Andrew, leading to a settlement reportedly worth millions. She named others: politicians, businessmen, academics. Part 6. The documents begin to surface. In January 2024, the first major document release occurred. A federal judge in New York unsealed nearly 1,000 pages of court filings from Virginia Giuffre's 2015 defamation lawsuit against Maxwell. These documents named dozens of Epstein's associates. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Michael Jackson, David Copperfield, Prince Andrew, all appeared in the documents. It's crucial to understand, being named doesn't mean guilt. Many of these people flew on Epstein's plane for legitimate reasons or attended social events, but the documents raised questions. Why were they spending time with a known sex offender? What did they know? When did they know it? Throughout 2025, the pressure mounted. The House Oversight Committee launched its own investigation. In September, they released 20,000 pages of documents from Epstein's estate, flight logs, calendars, schedules showing meetings with Woody Allen, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, and others. The Trump administration initially seemed reluctant. Justice Department officials claimed there was no client list, that such a document had never existed. They said Epstein died by suicide and the case was essentially closed. This frustrated investigators and victims' advocates, but public pressure kept building. Victims spoke out, journalists kept digging, and Congress, in a rare moment of bipartisan unity, decided to act. Part 7. The Historic Vote. On November 18, 2025, the U.S. House of Representatives held a vote on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. This bill would compel the Justice Department to release all unclassified documents related to Jeffrey Epstein within 30 days. The result was stunning: 427 to 1. Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives all agreed. The public deserves to know the truth. The single no vote came from Representative Clay Higgins of Louisiana, who argued that releasing names of innocent witnesses and family members would cause harm. Hours later, the Senate unanimously agreed to send the bill to President Trump's desk. No debate, no opposition, just a collective agreement that transparency was necessary. As of now, the bill awaits President Trump's signature. Given the overwhelming congressional support, it's expected he will sign. And then the clock starts. 30 days for the Justice Department to compile and release every file they have. Part 8. What the files might reveal. So what exactly will be in these files? Let's be clear about what we know and what we don't. The Justice Department has already stated there is no client list, no single document with names of men who paid Epstein for access to victims. That kind of explicit evidence apparently doesn't exist or was never found. But the files will contain flight logs from the Lolita Express showing who flew when and where, visitor logs from Little St. James Island, schedules and calendars showing meetings and appointments, communications between Epstein and his associates, FBI interviews and witness statements, financial records showing money movements, evidence collected during raids of his properties. When FBI agents raided Epstein's Manhattan mansion and Caribbean island in 2019, they seized computers, hard drives, CDs, and other digital media. Some of that content has never been made public. The question is, how much will be redacted? The bill allows for certain redactions. Names of victims who wish to remain anonymous. Ongoing intelligence operations. National security information. Identifying information about innocent witnesses. But here's the catch. The Justice Department has already been dragging its feet. The Washington Post reported that despite congressional action, a quick release of Epstein files is in doubt. The department has remained silent about its timeline and what level of redaction they'll apply. Part 9. Following the money. While we wait for the files, let's talk about something concrete, the financial reckoning. After Epstein's death, his estate was valued at over $577 million. A victims' compensation program was established, eventually paying out $121 million to more than 150 survivors. But that was just the beginning. In 2023, JPMorgan Chase reached a $290 million settlement with Epstein's victims. The lawsuit alleged the bank knew about Epstein's sex trafficking, but kept him as a client because he was profitable and well-connected. Internal emails showed employees joking about his crimes. Deutsche Bank followed with a $75 million settlement. Together, these banks paid more for enabling Epstein than many individual abusers ever face. It's a rare moment of institutional accountability. The U.S. Virgin Islands, where Little St. James is located, sued Epstein's estate for over $105 million, alleging his operation turned the territory into a rape factory. They settled for the full amount, with funds going to victim support and anti-trafficking efforts. Epstein's infamous island itself was sold in 2023 for $60 million to a private buyer. The funds went to victims. The new owner plans to develop it into a luxury resort, erasing its dark history. Whether that's healing or erasure is a question each victim must answer for themselves. Part 10. The powerful face consequences, sort of. Some of Epstein's associates have faced consequences. Others have not. Prince Andrew was forced to step back from royal duties in 2019 after a disastrous BBC interview where he claimed he couldn't have been with Virginia Giuffre because he was at Pizza Express in Woking. The internet mocked him mercilessly. In 2022, he settled her lawsuit, reportedly for over $12 million, with no admission of guilt. Les Wexner, Epstein's only publicly known major client, claimed Epstein stole millions from him. He cut ties in 2007 and said he was shocked to learn of the abuse. But questions remain. How could someone with power of attorney over $1 billion fortune not know what Epstein was doing? Bill Clinton has repeatedly stated he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes and took only 4 trips on his plane. Flight logs show at least 26. His spokesperson said he hasn't spoken to Epstein in over a decade before his death. But the frequency of their association raises questions Clinton has never fully addressed. Donald Trump was photographed with Epstein at parties in the 1990s and 2000s. Trump has said they had a falling out around 2004, allegedly over a real estate deal. In 2025, facing pressure over the files, Trump claimed to support their release, saying he has nothing to hide. The September 2025 document dump showed Epstein's calendars included meetings with Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Steve Bannon, years after his conviction. These men have variously claimed the meetings were brief, professional, or that they barely knew him. None have been accused of crimes, but it shows Epstein's network extended even after he became a registered sex offender. Part 11. The questions that remain. Here's what haunts this case. Jeffrey Epstein operated for decades. He had access to the world's elite. He trafficked dozens, possibly hundreds of victims, and we still don't know the full scope. Was Epstein connected to intelligence agencies? Alex Acosta's claim that he was told Epstein belonged to intelligence has never been proven or fully investigated. Was it an excuse? Or is there a darker truth about how Epstein accumulated his power and protection? How many powerful men knew what was happening and said nothing? The flight logs show visitors. The victim testimony describes being seen by household staff, pilots, and guests. How did so many people witness this and stay silent? How many victims are still out there? The compensation fund helped 150 survivors, but Epstein's operation ran for decades. Court documents reference hundreds of interactions. How many women are still living with trauma, afraid to come forward, or unaware that resources exist? Where did Epstein's money really come from? No major investment success stories. No business empire. Just one client and supposedly billions in wealth. Financial experts have long suspected money laundering or fronting for other wealthy individuals. The full financial records might finally answer this. What really happened in that Manhattan cell? The official ruling is suicide, but the circumstances, sleeping guards, malfunctioning cameras, removed cellmate, create reasonable doubt. Will the files contain the full investigation? Or will this question forever remain a conspiracy theory? Part 12. Why this matters. It's easy to view the Epstein case as just another scandal. Rich man does terrible things, gets away with it for a while, finally faces consequences. But this is bigger. This is about how systems of power protect abusers. Epstein's 2008 plea deal wasn't just lenient, it was a corruption of justice. A U.S. attorney chose to protect a sex offender and his accomplices rather than his victims. Why? Because Epstein had connections, because he was wealthy, because someone made a call. This is about how predators target the vulnerable. Epstein's victims were often from broken homes, struggling economically or otherwise marginalized. They were told they could make easy money. They were groomed, manipulated, and trapped. This pattern repeats in trafficking cases worldwide. This is about how societal attitudes towards sexual abuse have changed. In 2008, Epstein's victims were characterized as prostitutes by his defense team. By 2019, we called them what they were: children who were trafficked and abused. The language matters. The framing matters. This is about whether our institutions can actually deliver justice when power is involved. The 427-1 vote shows democracy can work, but the Justice Department's reluctance shows how bureaucracies can slow accountability. The next 30 days will test whether transparency can truly happen. Part 13. What happens next? President Trump is expected to sign the Epstein Files Transparency Act. When he does, a 30-day clock begins. The Justice Department must compile every unclassified file related to Jeffrey Epstein. They'll review for necessary redactions, victim names who want privacy, national security concerns, ongoing investigations. But the bulk should be released. Journalists around the world are preparing. When those files drop, it will be the biggest document dump since the Panama Papers or Snowden revelations. Newsrooms will assign teams to comb through every page, cross-reference names, and build timelines. Lawyers representing victims are watching closely. If the files reveal new evidence of who participated in the trafficking, expect new lawsuits. Civil cases don't require the same burden of proof as criminal cases. More settlements could be coming. Congressional committees will likely hold hearings. If the files show any current government officials were involved or had knowledge, expect subpoenas. The political fallout could be significant, especially heading into future elections. International investigations may follow. Epstein had properties in Paris, traveled extensively, and allegedly trafficked victims internationally. Other countries may open their own inquiries, based on what the U.S. files reveal. Part 14. What victims want. I've focused a lot on powerful men and institutions, but the heart of this story is the survivors. Many have spoken publicly about what they want from the file release. It's not revenge. It's not salacious gossip. It's validation. For years, they were called liars, prostitutes, gold diggers. The files will show they were telling the truth. They want accountability, not just for Epstein and Maxwell, but for everyone who enabled, participated, or turned a blind eye. They want the men who abused them to be named. They want the people who recruited them to face consequences. They want prevention. They want the world to understand how trafficking works so other girls aren't targeted. They want systems reformed so the next Jeffrey Epstein can't operate for decades. And they want to be seen as more than Epstein's victims. They're mothers, professionals, advocates, survivors. They've rebuilt their lives despite immense trauma. The files are just one step in a much longer journey toward healing. Part 15. The truth they don't want you to know. So here's the truth they don't want you to know. Jeffrey Epstein didn't operate alone. He couldn't have. Trafficking dozens of victims over decades requires infrastructure, pilots who fly the planes, staff who schedule appointments, friends who refer new victims, clients who create demand. It requires financial systems that don't ask questions, banks that process payments, accountants who manage shell companies, lawyers who silence victims with NDAs and settlements. It requires a justice system that looks the other way, prosecutors who take deals when they should demand trials, police who don't follow leads, judges who accept preposterous work-release arrangements, and it requires a social network of powerful people who value access and discretion over morality and law, people who don't ask questions, people who accept that certain individuals operate by different rules. The Epstein case isn't just about one pedophile billionaire. It's about a system that enabled him, a culture that protected him, and institutions that failed his victims repeatedly. Conclusion. The Epstein files are coming. After 20 years of cover-ups, sweetheart deals, and protected secrets, transparency may finally arrive. Will it be everything we hope? Probably not. There will be redactions, disappointments, and questions that remain unanswered. But the very fact that Congress voted 427-1 to force this release means something. It means public pressure works. It means victims' voices matter. It means even the powerful can be held accountable